Hi, well, today's council meeting has been a reasonably quick affair, really, in the normal run of things. We were very fortunate in the fact that we've got our new interim general manager available to the council today in Hamish McNulty, who has certainly brought a level of expertise to the council, which we appreciate. And you know, it was great to have a really interesting discussion during today's council meeting, of which he contributed significantly along with other members of the staff. So,
yeah, I think the fact that Hamish has now been here for 3 weeks and he's getting an understanding of our community, also the organisation as a whole, and working well with staff. So
that's important.
It is important.
Yeah.
So we really do welcome Hamish, and we thank him very much for accepting the challenges. And we have no doubt that moving forward with the selection of a permanent new general manager for the Snowy Valleys Council, we're really heading in a good direction.
And we've condensed that time frame into probably, we've probably got 4 weeks to go before we get to a point of interviewing potential new general managers for the organisation. So we appreciate that contribution that Hamish has made, and as I said, the other members of the staff in stepping up to the situation as it stands at this point in time.
So he's hit the ground running, Chaff.
We
had a few interesting issues in relation to the business paper from today, and none started off with Councillor Hughes's notice of motion.
Yeah, so that dealt with the issues surrounding the Batlow Caravan Park, which Sam brought to our attention quite eloquently, insofar as there's a number of issues there. But the council's general opinion was that we need to look at all our caravan parks and camping facilities in the local government area with a view to one, having a better understanding of how best we can manage those and what outcomes that we can achieve that give a better outcome not only to the local communities but to the community in a wider sense.
I think we need to understand how all of our caravan parks and facilities work. You know, if they're an asset of council or they're a responsibility of council, then we need to be working with those communities and also those who are managing the facilities. So I'm pretty excited to get the idea that we can look at caravan parks and our camping areas, whether they be free camping or organised, and to get that understanding for the wider community and financially.
I think it's important too that we involve the local communities in these facilities, because there is opportunity for local communities to be involved in the process and to also make a contribution to how they would like to see these facilities promoted in their own areas. So look, that was an interesting notice of motion on Sam's behalf, so we appreciate that.
Probably leads into sustainability, Chaff.
No, well, it does. Like, how do we sustain our community? Like, we had our sustainability report presented today, and look, one of the biggest issues that we've identified is, you can give sustainability lip service, but the reality is, how do you make it happen? And that's something that we've been putting our time and effort into, looking at that, and hopefully in the future we'll have a better engagement with the community as to what they see as sustainability. But would you like to make a few other comments there?
I think one of the things that we learnt even today, looking at the report, is that the sustainability report is something that, while we have it in front of us now, it needs to be also slightly flexible. We need to be able to work out when things aren't going to work, because from my perspective, coming onto council, sometimes we need to say that may have seemed a good idea at the beginning, but it's not going to work, so then we don't continue pursuing it. So with the sustainability report, I think it needs to be constantly reviewed. We need to engage with the community, which is what we were talking about before.
And we also need to look at the long-term implications of some of these things. Like, sustainability is not about the here and now, it's about the long term. And the reality is that unless we see things in that longer time frame and what the long-term implications are, we can make some unwise decisions which will come back and bite us in the future. So, I think that it's certainly highlighted the fact that we need to spend a little bit more time and get a better understanding of some of the projects that we embark upon. So.
And that comes down to, you know, we had a number of projects. I know that the Lions Club are looking at doing the artwork up on the water reservoir up near the hospital, and you know, even in relation to a couple of the projects happening in our parks, both down here in Tumut and Tumbarumba. And so, in order for us as a council to make the right decisions, we need to have all of the information that enables us to have a full knowledge of what those financial costs and ongoing costs are going to be. So, you know, the artwork on the
artwork on the reservoir up there. One of the things we've got to consider is, you know, whilst it's and if you look at the silo painting exercises across New South Wales and Queensland, they've been absolutely amazing. But they're operating on a dry platform, whereas up here at the water treatment, the water reservoir, we've got a problem with dealing with the water inside the reservoir, and the fact that there are a number of places where there's obvious water leaking, or not leaking, or weeping from the reservoir, which may have a long-term effect on the artwork that's being presented there. So there are other ways of looking at it. So the council's asked for a better understanding and more engagement with the Lions Club over this proposition to really get an understanding of what the long-term implications are.
But also the suitability.
Suitability, you know, look, there's a raft of issues that need to be considered there, but the council's going out to the wider community and the Lions Club in the specifics to engage with them and find out a possible way forward in achieving what they wish to achieve. So, but we're not going to end up with a situation that causes us more problem in the long term than it solves. So.
And you know, when we were talking about engaging with community, we've today council has approved the naming of two roads in the Shire, one up in Tumbarumba and one down here in Cancoban, and one down here in Tumut. And I know that in Tumut, I think there are a lot of people in our community who'll be very, very pleased with the naming of Weedon Place over at Murray Glen. Yeah,
which, you know, and the same applies down in Cancoban. Like Major Clues, they've decided to call the renamed road Cluses Road, and that revolves right the way back to the original surveyor of the Snowy Mountain scheme, Major Clues, who spent a significant amount of time in that area doing the survey work prior to the commencement of the Snowy Hydro scheme back in the 40s. So I think the community is certainly happy about the fact that his contribution has been acknowledged by naming the road after him. So look, I think they were both very prudent decisions on behalf of council, and I'm sure the community will support that.
And another prudent decision, Chaff, was in relation to the light industrial land that's
well, Tumbarumba's, you know, where there was a proposal regarding a lot of land in McMeekin Street, which probably is the last remaining unoccupied portion of light industrial land in Tumbarumba. A significant area when it comes to light industrial land, and the council's requested a further investigation into the potential of one, the sale of it, and two, how best to sell it by way of is it sold as one portion, or do we look at the potential for subdivision and providing additional land for alternate uses up there. So look, it's certainly an opportunity to, you know, obviously there's some interest in light industrial land in Tumbarumba, which is to be welcomed, but the reality is that from council's point of view, we want to ensure that there's an opportunity for as much development as we can get in that area, and you know, we're not going to stand in the way of this development. We just want to make sure that we give every potential opportunity for people who may well be interested in it. So we'll get a report back at the next council meeting as to the best way to proceed with this. But look, Trina,
I've got one thing to say. I've got one more. Just an acknowledgement. We've just come out of NAIDOC Week acknowledgement and celebrations across our Snowy Valleys and also across Australia. And I'd like to publicly thank and acknowledge everybody who made a contribution to the celebration of NAIDOC, especially through our Snowy Valleys Council area and the staff involved. And I'd really urge every member of our community to become informed and to understand why NAIDOC is so important, and why respect of our First Nations people is something that should be done as part of what we do each day. It shouldn't be celebrated once a year. And so my point, I suppose, is to acknowledge and thank those who made the contribution, but just encourage everybody, just make sure you understand the importance of our First Nations, and don't only acknowledge it once a year. It's a part of who we are, and we are contributing to the longest living culture.
Look, I think it's also important to acknowledge that Council was very cognizant of the fact that we need to review our way we go about a number of these acknowledgements of significant periods of time in our annual activities, e.g. Australia. So we were called for a bit of a complete re-evaluation of the way we go about acknowledging these particular events. So
we had a good meeting.
but we did. I
Very
think
good
it was
meeting.
good to have a good and free discussion, and I would hope that we continue with that. I think the opportunities are out there. Let's make the best of them, and let's
And what was the
take
word of
this-
the day?
turbidity. Turbidity.
Just to
So-
finish with a smile.
Yeah, right, and yeah, that was one of the issues, was obviously the report on the water supply
Drinking
situation
water.
across
Yeah.
Snowy Valleys Council. So, it's we're very mindful of the whole range of activities that Council has to keep in mind and carry out on behalf of the community we represent. And I think we're very mindful of the fact that we're only here because you people wanted us to be here. So thank you very much for
And
another great day.
and please remember that we are all approachable.
That's right.
We're
We've
your
all got a phone number,
representative.
don't
Yep,
hesitate.
we're your representatives. We're not representing ourselves.
Thank you. See you next month.